Hello, and welcome to the Daily Debrief Download, an audio series taking you through the biggest stories and the breaking news from the Oceanographic newsroom. I'm Rob Hutchins, news editor here at Oceanographic magazine, and in this episode, I'll be leading us on a deeper dive into just one of the biggest stories from today's top headlines. Today's story takes us out of the ocean and into the microscopic world of microplastics, a residual side effect of the world's booming plastic industry, and one that is so ubiquitous it has earned itself notoriety as the everywhere chemical. In recent weeks, we've seen headlines span the likes of microplastics in human brains, microplastics in our rainwater, microplastics even found in the air exhaled by dolphins. And now, to confirm there really is no corner of the Earth left untouched by human impact, scientists have found microplastics in one of the most remote regions on the planet, the glaciers of the Antarctic. But this isn't a story just about where they are, it's about how they got there, and the crucial need to stop their polluting. So let's start unpacking this from the beginning. You'd think there would be little left to surprise scientists about the pervasive nature of plastic. This is a material which, for all the advances we've been able to make with it, comes with a hefty consequence. That consequence has now reached the Antarctic, where researchers from the British Antarctic Survey have just discovered the presence of microplastics in 3 remote sites across the region. These are the Union Glacier, the Schanz Glacier, and the South Pole. Using a technique new to this area of research, scientists analysing samples of snow taken from each of the 3 sites have now confirmed the presence of microplastics down to the size of 11 micrometres. That is about the size of a red blood cell. This all surprised even the team at the British Antarctic Survey, who found concentrations of the pollutant ranging from 73 to 3,099 particles per litre of snow. They tell us that around 95% of the plastic particles discovered were as microscopic as 0.005 centimetres. That's the size of most human cells. This is an important finding because it suggests that previous studies may have underestimated the extent of microplastic pollution in the region. The level of investment into microplastics research is now a strong indicator of the severity of the issue. And the results we now have from them indicate themselves that microplastics being found in the Antarctic snow is actually 100 times higher than we previously believed. The mission now, of course, is to pinpoint the source of all these plastics. So what are the common types of microplastic pollution? Across the samples observed in this study, the most common plastic particle found was a plastic chemical used in synthetic textiles. This was followed by the kind of plastic found largely in bottles and packaging. It's findings like this that are leading scientists to believe there are now local sources of plastic pollution within the Antarctic region. And a possible theory is that these microplastics are being shed by the clothing worn and the equipment used by the people studying there. Whether it is or not, the broader implications of these findings are hard to understand just yet. Some researchers suggest that microplastics in this snow could affect its ability to reflect light. Others suggest it could impact how fast it melts. Then there are those concerned about these microplastics being transported to areas of ecological interest, where it could have a far wider reaching impact altogether. So what evidence have we seen to date of this wider impact upon life on the planet? Studies into the damaging impacts of microplastics upon human and animal health are being published at the rate of knots. One paper published by Harvard has found nanoplastics can enter human cells and even into a cell's nuclei. Such studies in cell culture and those into marine wildlife and animal models all indicate that microplastics can cause what is known as oxidative damage. It can also cause damage to the DNA and even changes in gene activity. All of these are known risks for cancer development. Some marine organisms seem to be eating more microplastics and fewer nutrients, which can in turn reverberate up the food chain. Recent research has detected microplastics in several penguin, seal, and fish species. And there are indications that plastic pollution could also be reducing the amount of carbon transported to the sea floor by the tiny shrimp-like creatures known as krill. With the evidence mounting, calls for an answer to our microplastic crisis are getting louder. But are they being heard by the people with the power to really do something about them? Whatever way you slice it, plastic production is inherently linked to big oil. And big oil has a big voice on the world stage, and the ear of many politicians. Despite the growing recognition of the harm caused by plastic waste, global annual plastic production doubled in the 2 decades since 2000 to around 460 million tons. It's expected to quadruple again by 2050. Meanwhile, less than 10% of all plastic produced globally is currently being recycled. And last year, countries failed to come to a deal that would galvanize a global approach, a legally binding global treaty on stopping and dealing with plastic waste and plastic pollution, including that within the marine environment. Halting the production of single-use plastics has been tipped as the first port of call in the fight against the microplastic crisis. It was an ambition that seemed well within reach when decisions to cut single-use plastics started to gain momentum in recent years. With news this week, however, that US President Donald Trump now plans to reverse a decision made by the Biden administration to remove single-use plastic from all federal operations, which is one of the largest sectors for single-use plastic in the world. It's yet another blow to campaigners looking for a means to move the needle on the microplastics crisis. If you'd like to learn more about this story and other news stories on the research into plastic pollution in our ocean, head to the Oceanographic Newsroom. This has been the Daily Debrief Download. I've been Rob Hutchins. Thank you for listening.